the forest, like the mountains.
As a guitar teacher, I have to say this song is never off my radar for very long, and with good reason. It's a lot of fun to play, people like to sing it, and for me it's quite useful to introduce various elements of guitar technique. As we'll see in a moment, John Denver originally recorded this in an alternative tuning of drop D. For now, we're going to stick to standard tuning. We've got 3 beats to the bar, we've got some nice finger picking, and for a couple of chords, there are going to be some alternative shapes further up the neck. For now, though, in standard tuning, let's just sketch out the chords, starting with the intro. We've got 1 bar each of D, and then D sus4. I'm just bringing my little finger down onto the top string at the 3rd fret, off again, and on again, and that happens 4 times.
You fill up my...
And then we're into the verse. Now the verse is 2 lots of 16 bars. Again, it's 1 chord per bar, and it works like this. We've got a bar of G, then A, then B minor, and back to G.
You fill up my senses,
B minor.
like a night.
Now we've got D, and this is the start of a long 7-bar descending section, by which I mean the bass note moves down.
Forest, like the mountains in springtime.
So as you play these, it's worth making a note of where the bass note is in each chord. For forest, open 4th string obviously, then we've got F sharp minor, but with a C sharp in the bass, which just means we're missing out the bottom string. To B minor, to A, G, F sharp minor this time with the 6th string involved, to E minor, and that all finishes. And then we've got a G, and then 4 bars of A to finish that, except that the 2nd bar of those 4 bars has a note on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string to make A sus4 and back again. So let's have the whole of that first 16 bars.
You fill up my senses, like a night in the forest, like the mountains in springtime, like a walk in the rain, like a storm in the...
And the second half is very much the same, but it ends differently. So again, we've got G, A, B minor, G.
Like a storm in the desert,
B minor,
like a sleepy blue...
and here comes our rundown again.
Ocean, you fill up my senses.
Now after the E minor, we go to A.
Come fill me again. Come let me...
And we start again. So you can hear the intro there. And we're into the 2nd verse. Okay, let's look at the actual chords that get played for the D sus4 interlude thing, and it's up here. It's a little 3-note chord. It's just a triad. I've got the 7th fret of the 3rd string, 7th fret of the 2nd string, and the 5th fret of the top string. And then I'm going to put my little finger on the 8th fret of the 2nd string for the D sus4. Now take this with a pinch of salt. If you just want to play D sus4, more power to you. But this is the way it was originally played, and if you hear this on the 12th string, I'll give you a blast in a moment of the 12th string, you can hear how the original is.
You fill up my senses.
So that's how that is. And while we're at it, let's just look at the picking for that. Now I'm going to use my thumb and 3 fingers up on the top 4 strings. Thumb is on the 4th string, my 1st finger on the 3rd string, 2nd finger on the 2nd string, 3rd finger on the top string. And it's like this. I'm going to play the 4th string, then the 3rd string, and then it's the 1st string and 2nd string, and then again 1st and 2nd strings. That's the whole of that. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and making a 3-beat bar. Then my little finger comes on and we do the same thing again. So you need to watch out for that when it's time to move up from the verse. Up to speed, and this does go quite quickly, it's this. And as if by magic, here's how that sounds on the 12th string. And so on. Now, although we can hear clearly what he's doing for picking in the intro, I can't really work out what he's doing for the rest of the song, and I don't think it matters particularly. It's kind of obscured by mandolins and that whole wash of strings, so I'm just going to find a pattern that works really well for me. On a D chord, for instance, that would be like this. Thumb 1, 2, 3, 2, 1 in half beats. 1 and 2 and 3 and. It's just a case of remembering where the thumb is supposed to be on any given chord. So if I play that slowly through the verse, you'll fill up my senses like a night in the forest, like the mountains in springtime, like a walk in the rain. Stay on the 5th string for all of these. Like a storm in the desert, like a sleepy blue ocean. You fill up my senses. Come fill me again. Da, 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 da. And so on. Okay, before we play through the song, let's just talk about this drop D tuning. You don't have to do this, but this is what John Denver did on the original, albeit on the 12th string. The bottom string is tuned down to D. That's a tone below where it now is. So that should be in octaves with the open 4th string, more or less. And the reason for that is if you're playing in the key of D, normally the bass note is on the 4th string, which is kind of in the middle of the range of the guitar. So it's a little bit weedy. This way we've got a slightly beefier sound, or a much beefier sound. It's great for finger picking. There is an issue, of course, with any chords that in standard tuning have their bass notes on the 6th string. They're going to need a tweak. So G, for instance, that's no longer going to work. The string's been tuned down the equivalent of 2 frets, so that note's going to be there, and that is the standard way to play a G chord in drop D tuning. In fact, F sharp minor would be here, but I'm not going to be picking the 5th and 4th strings, so that or that is going to work fine. Likewise E minor, the 2 strings that would normally be fretted for E minor, I'm not picking them. I've got my fingers on the top 3 strings, my thumbs on the bottom string, so it's enough for me just to play a note on the 2nd fret of the bottom string. Now actually playing this song in drop D tuning doesn't make a whole heap of difference to very nearly all the chords. They have exactly the same voicing as they do in standard tuning, but there are a couple of places where we get to hit that open 6th string and bring out the full richness of our acoustic guitar, and that's pretty satisfying. So anyway, here's how it would sound. You fill up my senses like a night in a forest, like the mountains in springtime, like a walk in the rain, like a storm in the desert, like a sleepy blue ocean. You fill up my senses, come fill me again. And so on. Right then, I'm back in standard tuning for the final run through, and I'm going to play the intro and the first verse as if it's the last verse, because they're the same lyric. What happens in the last run through in the second half is when we get to the B minor, there's a break. Like a storm in the desert,
like a sleepy blue ocean.
And then it carries on. So the G chord between the B minor and the following D just doesn't get played that time. It goes on to the end as normal, and then we get into our... And there are 3 D sus4s before the song finally finishes.
Senses like a night in the forest, like the mountains in springtime, like a walk in the rain, like a storm in the desert, like a sleepy blue ocean. Fill up my senses, come fill me again.
And that's it.